Humans have been establishing settlements and creating civilizations for thousands of years. During this time, we have followed colonization patterns, favored certain conditions, and influenced our own development. This presentation will cover this topic and the details of human geography and distribution. Factors in the field of history, technology, immigration trends, and natural environment strongly influence where people live and how they're distributed. The first factor, history, describes how long a settlement or civilization has existed. In the terms of population, an area of a long history and pronounced culture is likely to have a larger population when compared with relatively younger areas. For example, cities in Canada that were first populated by early settlers from Europe have the greatest population today. Technology is another important factor. For example, if an area has the technology to efficiently provide for human necessities, transportation, and livable spaces, then it has the capability to support a large population. A few instances of such technologies are fertilizers in addition to mechanized farming, public transport infrastructure, and advanced residential features such as treated water. The third factor on the list is immigration, which has the potential to greatly affect populations. People may choose to change where they reside for a variety of reasons, but in general, countries with a fair government, strong social policies, and good living conditions are more attractive to immigration. A good example to represent the significance of immigration is Canada, which accepts 250,000 new citizens a year for this method. Finally, the natural environment is arguably the greatest influence to where people are distributed. The most populated areas today have constant access to fresh water and natural resources within their environment. These four factors are the greatest determinants of population, so if you find them all in one place, chances are there are people there too. Immigration has been and still is a significant force which shapes Canada. Immigrants have affected fields ranging from Canada's economic status to its social development and cultural diversity. I'll start by exploring some of the history and social implications. Canada has always been a country of different cultures, with both the English and French as founding people. This means that from the beginning, the country has needed to accommodate for variations in traditions, languages, and beliefs among the population. This history has influenced the creation of social innovations such as the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms and has positively shaped the way immigrants integrate into Canadian society. Furthermore, as a country in the Western Hemisphere, immigration has occurred throughout Canada's history and is behind a vast majority of the population. Because of this, immigration is seen as a core part of the growth and development of the nation. Specifically, it has improved ethnic diversity and social cohesion, helping to create a unique cultural identity in Canada. Concerning economic implications, immigration has influenced categories such as the labor force, economic growth, and living standards in both positive and negative ways. To explain, some studies, such as one conducted by the Fraser Institute in 2012, have shown that many recent immigrants earn significantly lower incomes compared to those born in Canada, and that they pose a multi-billion-dollar economic burden due to greater usage of social services. Additionally, the study notes the negative effects of a less competitive job market, escalated real estate prices, and greater resource consumption, along with similar economic and social issues. However, many parties argue that the benefits of immigration outweigh these negatives. For example, Canada's working population is largely aging with the decline in birth rates in recent decades. Without current levels of immigration, the labor force will be substantially reduced, resulting in a myriad of economic consequences. The immigration policies set by the Canadian government help counter this by welcoming immigrants from abroad with preferences for educated young people and families. To explain, to immigrate to Canada, one must score at least 67 out of 100 in a point system from 6 selection categories. These categories are English or French skills, education, experience, age, arranged employment, and adaptability, with varying point values for each. This supports efficient integration of talent into the labor force, ensures future generations, and enables positive contributions to the Canadian economy. Supporting immigration and its benefits are politicians from all levels who believe high immigration to be essential to the economic health of the nation. Their opinions are based on the innovations, opportunities, and economic growth brought by immigration. As a significant factor in creating the Canada of today, immigration will certainly continue to change the nation going into the 21st century. Population density is the measure of the amount of people in a particular area. There are many factors which influence population density, including both natural and human factors. For example, natural factors such as flat land, proximity to water, the abundance of resources, and a temperate climate all prompt settlement and therefore a concentrated population. These factors are favorable because they enable the sustainable production of food, easy establishment, and economic prosperity. With areas of low population density, the opposite natural factors can be found. This includes mountainous or dry terrain, little to no resources, and temperature at the extremes. Human factors also have significant influence over where people choose to reside. Among these are political, social, and economic conditions. To explain, a population-dense area would likely have ideal human factors such as a stable governing body, strong social development, employment opportunities along with conveniences and amenities. On the other side of the spectrum, unstable and corrupt governments, weak societal connections, and lack of economic opportunities are factors which influence emigration and therefore low population density. Today, over half the world's population lives in high-density areas, and as this global map shows, these areas generally feature ideal factors, namely geographic placement near coastlines and social stability. Site and situation are terms which describe a settlement's position and relation to its environment. The site is where a settlement is located, and it contains certain physical features which are specific and, for the most part, beneficial to the settlement. Components such as climate, terrain, and natural resources characterize different sites. The situation is the settlement's location relevant to its surrounding area, including spatial relation to neighboring settlements and their physical features. For example, settlements are often situated in relation to geographic features such as a body of water or man-made features such as a railway. This is because the situation of such a settlement would be ideal for a variety of items, including transportation and economic trade. In summary, when a settlement is established, the site and its situation are reviewed to best guarantee the settlement's success. Land can be developed in various ways to suit the needs of its residents. A few primary uses of land are for residential, commercial, industrial, agricultural, and institutional purposes. Residential describes land on which people live and is used for the construction of houses, apartments, and the like. Land developed for commercial purposes feature distributors of goods and services such as stores and restaurants. Next, industrial land use is for the purpose of production and manufacturing. This includes land on which factories, energy generation plants, and refineries are built. To provide the necessity of food, agricultural land use occurs on the largest scale. Within this category are farms, pastures, and the like, which often occur on the outer limits of a municipality. Last on the list of primary land uses is institutional development. This category includes hospitals, public buildings such as schools and libraries, as well as government establishments. Secondary forms of land use include conveniences such as transportation infrastructure and recreational spaces. A few examples of these include airports, train stations, parks, and golf courses. All of these purposes contribute to creating ideal conditions for the places in which we live. The method in which land is developed often depends on several factors, namely physical, economic, and human factors. Physical factors such as the soils and climate of an area can enable and prohibit different forms of development. For example, the rich soil in southern Ontario is suitable for growing a variety of crops, enabling significant agricultural land use. Additionally, the temperate climate and precipitation level also support this development. Next are economic factors which determine land utilization. These include the demand of a population, distance from markets, and wealth of an area. To explain, the greater availability of consumers in cities such as Toronto promotes the development of commercial facilities, whereas a small town with less access to the market may have less land used for commercial purposes. Finally, human factors such as labor, population size, and government policy also influence land use patterns. Take residential land use as an example. In an area with a large population, the majority of land would be partitioned for housing developments. Because of these social factors, residential areas are often the most significant form of land use within cities. The utilization of land is central to human development, and the form in which it is used depends on these primary factors. Urbanization is the physical growth of urban areas, a process driven by the movement of people from rural areas into urbanized ones such as cities. In the last century, billions of people have moved into the world's rapidly growing number of cities. This makes urbanization one of the most significant societal changes in recent history. Urbanization is the physical growth of urban areas, a process driven by the movement of people from rural areas into urbanized ones such as cities. In the last century, billions of people have moved into the world's rapidly growing number of cities. This makes urbanization one of the most significant societal changes in recent history. There are several factors which serve as the primary influences to the significant patterns of urbanization: social, environmental, economic, political, and technological. Since many people move into urban areas looking for a better way of life, the choice is often motivated by social factors. These include greater opportunities for education, healthcare, leisure activities, and the opportunity to connect with more people. The superior picture of urban life painted by the media also ties into the influence of social factors. Environmental factors provide an additional reason for people to move into cities. As urbanization creates continually larger cities, rural areas are converted and developed. People affected by this change in environment may then transition to the city for continued income, which continues the process. Urbanization may also occur alongside industrialization and is often motivated by economic factors. With more employment and commercial opportunities, economic incentives are the primary motivator for movement into cities. Next are political factors, which include the decisions of municipal governments and their city planners. They control the growth of a city and areas which are developed, fulfilling the core requirements of urbanization. Finally, there are the prevalent technological factors. As advances in our technology enable improvements in areas such as transportation and communication, people are able to live farther from where they work or even communicate from home. This opens the possibility of ever larger urban agglomerations with suburban communities. These are the 5 factors that have driven the urbanization patterns of the past century and the ones that will continue to in the future. Through this presentation, I hope you can now realize the complexity of human geography and its significance in creating the world we live in.